The council chamber floated in space far from any sun or planet. Through the massive windows, stars stretched in every direction. Inside the chamber, hundreds of alien beings sat in curved rows. Some had scales. Some had multiple arms. Some glowed with strange light. And in the smallest section, almost hidden in the back, sat the human delegation. Ambassador Hyun straightened his uniform as he waited for his turn to speak. He had been preparing for this moment for 3 years. Earth had finally earned the right to address the Galactic Council about the new trade restrictions. Beside him sat 2 junior diplomats who looked nervous. Hyun told them to stay calm. He had done this before. The council chamber grew quiet. A massive reptilian creature stood at the center podium. His scales were dark red, and his eyes were yellow with black slits. This was High Chancellor Vextal of the Vortan Collective. He was the most powerful being in the known galaxy. When he spoke, his voice boomed through the chamber. "We now address the matter of the human colonies," Vextal announced. His long tail swished behind him as he gestured to a floating screen. Numbers and charts appeared in the air. The Council has reviewed Earth's economic output for the past 5 years. "We find it insufficient." Hyun felt his jaw tighten, but he kept his face calm. He had expected this. The Council always found ways to demand more from weaker species. For 50 years, ever since humans had developed faster than light travel and met the galactic community, Earth had been treated like a child. They could have a few colonies. They could build a small fleet. But they always had to ask permission. They always had to pay tribute. "The human species currently operates 12 colony worlds," Vextal continued. "This is excessive for their level of development. We propose reducing this number to 5 colonies. The other 7 will be transferred to more capable species who can utilize the resources properly." A wave of clicking and buzzing filled the chamber. The insectoid Eltherians were expressing their approval. Their representative, a creature that looked like a giant mantis covered in blue chitin, raised its forearms. "The Eltherian Syndicate agrees with this proposal. Humanity has contributed little to galactic trade. They occupy valuable worlds while producing minimal output." More voices joined in agreement. The energy beings called the Drayan shimmered with approval. Other species that Hyun had never even met added their support. No one spoke in defense of Earth. No one ever did. Hyun raised his hand to request permission to speak. It took nearly 10 minutes before Vextal noticed him. The Chancellor's yellow eyes fixed on the human with something like amusement. "The human wishes to address the Council," Vextal said. Several aliens made sounds that Hyun had learned to recognize as laughter. "Very well. Speak, human." Hyun stood and walked to the speaker platform. He was tall for a human, but still only reached the chest height of most aliens in the chamber. His voice was clear as he spoke into the microphone. "Honorable Council members, Earth requests that you reconsider this proposal. The 7 colonies you wish to take have been settled by humans for over 20 years. Millions of people have made these worlds their homes. They have families there. They have built cities and farms. Taking these colonies would destroy lives and communities." The chamber erupted in more laughter. The sound was harsh and mocking. Vextal raised a clawed hand for silence, though his own mouth was curved in what passed for a smile among his species. "Ambassador Hyun," the Chancellor said slowly, as if speaking to a child, "you speak of homes and families as if such things matter in galactic politics. Your species is permitted to exist in this galaxy because we allow it. Your worlds produce nothing we cannot get elsewhere. Your technology is primitive. Your military is laughable." A Drayan observer, a being made of glowing purple energy contained in a floating sphere, spoke next. Its voice was cold and mechanical. "Humanity conquered its own planet through violence and warfare. Your history is filled with bloodshed. You should be grateful we permit you to have any colonies at all. Many council members believe your species should be restricted to your home system." Hyun felt anger rising in his chest, but he forced it down. He had been trained for this. Getting emotional would only make things worse. "We understand the Council's concerns," he said carefully, "but we ask for fairness. We have followed every treaty. We have paid every tribute demanded of us. We have restricted our military as ordered. We have shared our technology as requested. We have done everything asked of us. And yet it is not enough," Vextal said flatly. He tapped his claws on the podium. "The Council has made its decision. In addition to reducing your colonies from 12 to 5, we are also increasing your annual tribute payment by 400%. Furthermore, All human military personnel will undergo genetic modification to ensure compliance with Council standards. And finally, we are granting mining rights on 3 of your remaining colony worlds to the Vortan Mining Corporation. The words hit Hyun like physical blows. This was worse than he had imagined. Far worse. They were not just taking colonies. They were taking everything. The increased tribute would cripple Earth's economy. The genetic modification was a violation of human rights. The mining rights meant aliens would control human worlds. You cannot do this, Hyun said, his voice shaking slightly. These demands are unreasonable. They violate the founding principles of the Galactic Council. The Eltharian representative made a clicking sound that was definitely laughter. The founding principles apply to civilized species, human. Your kind has existed in space for barely 5 decades. We have been traveling the stars for thousands of years. You have no right to lecture us about principles. Vextal leaned forward, his massive form looming over the podium. The vote will now commence. All in favor of the new restrictions on humanity? Hands, claws, tentacles, and energy fields rose throughout the chamber. The vote was unanimous. Not a single species voted against the measures. Some abstained, but none supported Earth. Hyun stood frozen at the speaker platform. Around him, aliens were already moving on to other business. To them, the matter of humanity was settled. Insignificant. Barely worth the time they had spent discussing it. But Hyun was not moving. He pulled out his communication device and activated it. His voice was calm now, eerily calm as he spoke. This is Ambassador Hyun to Earth Command. I am transmitting the Council's decision now. Uploading full data package. He touched several buttons on the device. Back on Earth, more than 20 light years away, his message would arrive instantly through quantum communication. The military leaders would read it. The president would read it. And they would activate the protocols that had been prepared for exactly this scenario. Hyun looked up at Vextal. The Chancellor was watching him with idle curiosity, the way someone might watch an insect. We will respond within 24 hours, Hyun said clearly. This triggered more laughter throughout the chamber. Vextal's mouth opened wider in amusement. Respond? What could humanity possibly do, Ambassador? You have no fleet. You have no allies. You have no power. Accept the Council's decision gracefully, or we will impose even harsher terms. Hyun allowed himself a small smile. It was not a happy smile. You will have our response in 24 hours, he repeated. Then he turned and walked out of the chamber, his 2 junior diplomats following behind him. As the doors closed behind them, one of the diplomats whispered urgently, Sir, what are we going to do? They are taking everything from us. Hyun kept walking toward the docking bay where their ship waited. His mind was already thinking ahead to what would happen next. What had been planned for decades, what Earth had been preparing for in secret since the day they realized the Council would never treat them as equals. We are going to show them, Hyun said quietly, that they should have been more careful about who they chose to humiliate. The message reached Earth Command at exactly 0347 hours local time. Fleet Admiral Jisoo was already awake, sitting in her office in the Seoul Strategic Command Center. She had been waiting for this call. She had known it would come eventually. The Council had pushed too far too many times. It was only a matter of when, not if. She read Ambassador Hyun's report 3 times. Each time her expression grew colder. When she finished the 3rd reading, she set down her tablet and stared at the wall for exactly 3 minutes. On that wall hung a painting of old Earth, back when humans had been confined to one planet. Back when they had fought each other instead of working together. Those days were long gone now. Jisoo stood and walked to her desk. She placed her hand on a scanner that read her fingerprint, her palm print, and her DNA all at once. A hidden panel opened in the desk. Inside was a single red button and a keypad. She typed a code that only 5 people in the entire galaxy knew. Then she pressed the button. Across human space, alarms began to sound. But these were not normal alarms. They were silent ones, transmitted through quantum channels that the aliens did not know existed. On Earth, on every human colony, on every military ship, and at every hidden facility, people received the same message. 2 words in ancient Korean, Red Phoenix. In the command center, dozens of officers stopped what they were doing. They looked at Admiral Jisoo. She activated the main communication screen and her face appeared on monitors across all of human civilization. Authorization code Red Phoenix, she said clearly. All units, protocol broken chain, you know what to do. Execute immediately. The screen went dark. No one asked questions. No one hesitated. For 50 years, every human in the military and government had been trained for this moment. They had practiced. They had prepared. And now the time had come. On the human colony of New Busan, the sun was just rising. Captain Minho was drinking his morning coffee when his wrist communicator vibrated 3 times in a specific pattern. He looked at the screen. Red Phoenix. He put down his coffee cup very carefully. His hand was steady. He had been expecting this for years. Lieutenant Yuna, he called out. His second-in-command appeared in the doorway within seconds. She had received the same message. Get everyone underground. Seal the blast doors. Cut all external communications. No transmissions in or out. Not even emergency channels. Yes, sir, Yuna replied. She did not ask why. She already knew. Every colonist on New Busan knew. They had all been briefed when they arrived. They had all signed the papers. And they had all agreed to keep the secret. Within 2 hours, every civilian on New Busan was in the underground shelters. These were not small emergency bunkers. They were massive facilities that could house the entire population for months. They had been built into the bedrock below the colony during the first year of settlement. The aliens had never detected them. The council's inspectors had walked right over them dozens of times and never suspected a thing. Similar scenes were happening on every human world. On New Tokyo, the governor activated emergency protocols. On Armstrong Station orbiting Luna, the military garrison went to full alert. On the farming colony of Greenfield, families gathered their children and moved quickly but calmly to the shelters. No one panicked. Everyone knew their role. And then the silence fell. The quantum communication channels that humanity had used for decades simply went dark. The constant chatter of human merchant ships reporting their positions stopped. The scientific data being transmitted from human research stations ceased. The diplomatic messages from Earth's embassies vanished. Everything went quiet all at once. At the Galactic Council Station, the communication monitors noticed the change within 6 hours. A junior technician, a small furry creature from a species that specialized in communications, brought the report to his supervisor. Sir, we have lost all signals from human space. All of them, simultaneously. The supervisor, a Drayan observer named Thelmore, studied the data. This was unusual. Communication failures happen sometimes, but not across an entire civilization at once. Run a diagnostic. Check if there is a problem with our receivers. The technician worked for 30 minutes and then reported back. Our equipment is functioning perfectly, sir. The problem is on the human side. They have stopped transmitting. All of them. Every ship, every colony, every station, complete communications blackout. Thelmore felt a strange sensation, something his species rarely experienced. It took him a moment to identify it. Unease. Continue monitoring. Report any changes immediately. On Earth, Admiral Jisoo sat in a conference room deep underground. Around her sat the leaders of humanity's true military. These were not the officers the Council knew about. These were the ones who commanded the secret fleets. The hidden bases. The weapon systems that officially did not exist. Status report, Jisoo said calmly. A colonel stood and activated a holographic display. All colonies are sealed and secure. All civilian populations are in shelters. All diplomatic staff have been recalled. Our ships are returning from alien space. We will have everyone back within 12 hours. Good, what about the reveal? Another officer, a woman with gray hair and sharp eyes, smiled slightly. Phase 1 satellites are powering up now. The Council's sensors should detect the energy signatures within the hour. Phase 2 facilities are opening their hangar bays. Phase 3 will activate on your command, Admiral. Jisoo nodded. Excellent. And the Taeyang station? Commander Jinwoo reports the station is at full operational capacity. The stellar converter is charged and ready, currently aimed at target Alpha as planned. Around the table, some officers looked grim, others looked determined. The stellar converter was humanity's ultimate weapon, a device that could cause a star to go supernova. It had taken 30 years to build in absolute secrecy. The Council had no idea it existed. If they had known, they would have destroyed Earth immediately. Let us hope we do not need to use it, Jisoo said quietly. But they need to know it exists. They need to understand what we are capable of. Back at the Council station, High Chancellor Vextal was growing annoyed. He had been in a meeting about trade routes when his aide interrupted him. "What is it?" he growled. "My lord, the humans have gone silent. All of them. And our surveillance teams report unusual activity throughout their space." "What kind of activity?" The aide, a smaller Vortan with nervous gestures, pulled up a data pad. "Energy signatures we do not recognize. Large power sources activating. Movement detected at locations we thought were abandoned mining facilities. And our spy networks within human territories have stopped reporting. We believe they have been compromised." Vextel laughed. "Impossible. We have been monitoring human development for 50 years. They barely have fusion reactors. They have 47 military ships, all of which are outdated. They pose no threat, perhaps, my lord, but something is happening. Should we send ships to investigate?" The Chancellor waved a clawed hand dismissively. "Let them sulk. They are angry about our decision. This is a childish display of defiance. When their 24-hour deadline passes, they will accept our terms. They have no choice." But as the hours passed, more reports came in. Human merchant vessels were fleeing alien ports at maximum speed, abandoning cargo and contracts. Human embassy staff were boarding ships and leaving without explanation. And throughout human space, things were appearing on sensors that should not exist. In Earth's orbit, satellites that had been classified as old space junk for decades suddenly came to life. They had been there since the early days of human spaceflight. The Council's inspectors had scanned them and found them to be inactive debris. But now they were powering up and their energy readings were enormous. In the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter, facilities that were supposed to be simple mining operations began to open. Massive doors in the sides of asteroids slid apart, revealing hangar bays large enough to hold warships. And from those hangars, ships began to emerge. Not small patrol boats, not transport vessels. Warships. Hundreds of them. And far out in the Kuiper Belt, beyond Pluto, something much larger began to move. A structure 50 kilometers long started to rotate, its surface covered in weapons arrays and power conduits. This was the Taeyang Station. The name meant sun in Korean. It was named that for a reason. Commander Jinwoo stood on the bridge of the station watching his crew work. They had trained for this moment their entire careers. Some of them had been born on this station and never seen Earth. They had lived their whole lives keeping the secret. "All systems are operational, Commander," reported his weapons officer. "The stellar converter is online and stable. We have a target lock on the Vorten home star. Time to effect, 47 seconds if we fire." Jinwoo nodded slowly. 47 seconds to destroy an entire solar system, to kill billions of beings. It was a terrible power, but sometimes terrible power was necessary. Sometimes the only way to prevent war was to show your enemy that you could destroy them completely. "Maintain target lock," Jinwoo ordered. "But do not fire unless I give the explicit order." "Understood?" "Yes, sir." The countdown to humanity's deadline continued. 24 hours. That was what Ambassador Hyun had promised. That was when Earth would give its response to the Council's demands. And as the seconds ticked away, the galaxy was about to discover that humanity had not been weak for 50 years. They had been waiting. The Galactic Council, chamber filled with representatives exactly 26 hours after the ultimatum had been delivered. High Chancellor Vextel sat in his elevated seat, his yellow eyes scanning the crowd. The Eltherian representatives clicked their mandibles in anticipation. The Drayan observers floated in their containment spheres. Everyone expected the same thing: humanity's surrender. The main display screen activated. But Ambassador Hyun was not in the council station. His face appeared as a hologram, transmitted from somewhere far away. He wore a slight smile that made several council members uncomfortable. Something about that smile was wrong. "Greetings, honored council members," Hyun said politely. His voice was calm and clear. "I am transmitting from Earth Command. I apologize for not being there in person, but recent events have made that impossible." Vexatal growled impatiently. "Get on with it, human. We assume you are here to announce Earth's acceptance of our terms. Make it quick. We have important matters to discuss." Hyun's smile widened slightly. "Actually, no. As of 2 hours ago, the United Earth government has formally withdrawn from all galactic treaties. Every single agreement we signed over the past 50 years is now void. We are reclaiming our complete sovereignty, immediately and permanently." The chamber erupted in shocked sounds. Clicking, buzzing, roaring, electronic beeping. The Eltharian representative stood up on its multiple legs. This is treason. This is an act of war. You cannot simply withdraw from the council. We just did, Hyun replied calmly. And before you threaten military action, I suggest you look at your tactical displays. All of them. Around the chamber, council members activated their personal displays. What they saw made them freeze. The screens showed data that should have been impossible. Fleet numbers, ship positions, energy readings, weapon systems, and all of it was human. The main chamber display changed. Now everyone could see what the individual screens showed. A map of known space appeared, with colored markers showing military positions. Blue markers indicated human forces. There were hundreds of them, thousands of them, and they were everywhere. As you can see, Hyun continued, his voice taking on a harder edge, humanity's military capabilities have been somewhat underreported. Where you believed we had 47 defense vessels, we actually have 847 warships. These range from destroyers and cruisers to dreadnoughts and carrier groups. All of them are equipped with technology you have never seen before. A Vortan military officer stood up, his scales turning darker with rage. Impossible. We have monitored your shipyards for 50 years. We have inspected your facilities. We would have detected such construction. You saw what we wanted you to see, Hyun said simply. Did you really think a species that conquered its own planet through warfare and deception would be incapable of hiding things from you? You called us primitive. You called us violent. But you never considered that those qualities might make us very good at keeping secrets. The display changed again. Now it showed images of human colonies, dozens of them, but not the 12 colonies the council knew about. 89 colony worlds. Some of them had been settled for over 40 years. Some were massive cities with millions of inhabitants. Others were military fortresses bristling with weapons. You thought we controlled 12 colonies, Hyun continued. We control 89 settled worlds and 247 deep space installations. Most of them were hidden by holographic camouflage and quantum stealth technology. Your inspectors walked past our installations and saw empty space. Your spy satellites looked at our colonies and saw barren rocks. We made sure of it. Dr. Sora, the director of Earth's Xenotechnology Division, appeared next to Hyun in the hologram. She was a small woman with sharp eyes and graying hair. Every piece of technology you gave us, we studied. Every restriction you placed on us, we worked around. You told us we could not have quantum drives, so we invented quantum displacement drives that are twice as fast. You told us we could not have beam weapons, so we developed graviton projectors that can tear apart ship hulls. You told us we could not have artificial intelligence, so we created neural networks you cannot even detect. High Chancellor Vextal was no longer smiling. His claws gripped the armrests of his chair so hard they left marks. You dare threaten the council? You dare reveal this treachery to our faces? We will mobilize every fleet in the galaxy. We will crush your worlds one by one. The display changed once more. This time it showed real-time images from cameras positioned above alien worlds. The Vortan homeworld, the Eltharian hive planets, the Drayan energy fields, and above each one, clearly visible, were human warships. Commander Jinwoo appeared in the hologram alongside Hyun and Sora. He wore the uniform of Earth's real military, not the ceremonial outfit the council had seen before. High Chancellor, I would advise against making threats you cannot back up. At this moment, human warships are positioned above every major alien homeworld in the council. We used quantum displacement technology to arrive simultaneously, exactly 1 hour ago. Your defense forces never detected us until we wanted to be seen. The chamber fell silent. Every council member was checking their home system status, and every one of them was confirming the same horrifying truth. Humans were there, armed, in position, ready to fire. This is an act of war, Vextal repeated, but his voice was quieter now, less certain. No, Admiral Jisoo said, appearing in the hologram. She stood in Earth's command center, surrounded by tactical displays. This is a demonstration of capability. If we wanted war, your homeworlds would already be under attack. We could have destroyed your military infrastructure before you even knew we were there. But we did not. Do you know why? No one answered. The council members were too shocked to speak. For 600 years, the council had been the supreme power. No one had ever challenged them. No one had ever had the strength to challenge them. Until now. Because unlike you, Jisoo continued, her voice cold, We do not start wars unnecessarily. We prepared for war. We built the capability to wage war, but we hoped we would never need to use it. We hoped that eventually the Council would see us as equals. We hoped that reason would prevail. We were wrong. Hyun took over the explanation. For 50 years we endured your contempt. We paid your tributes. We followed your rules. We accepted your insults. Every treaty you forced us to sign, we studied for weaknesses. Every inspector you sent, we learned from. Every piece of technology you restricted, we reverse-engineered and improved. You thought you were controlling us. Actually, you were educating us. The Drayan observer Thelmore, who had been silent until now, spoke up. His electronic voice was calm but strained. The energy readings coming from your Kuiper Belt facility. What is that structure? Jinwoo smiled grimly. That is the Taeyang Station, a 50-kilometer-long research and development facility. It also houses our stellar converter weapon. Currently, it is aimed at the Vorten homestar. If we fire, your sun will go supernova in approximately 47 seconds. Your entire species would be extinct within 5 minutes. Vextel's scales turned pale. Around the chamber, other aliens made sounds of fear and disbelief. A weapon that could destroy stars was beyond anything they had imagined. You would not dare, the Eltherian representative said. But the creature's voice shook. That would be genocide. Mass murder on an unimaginable scale. We would not dare. Jisu's voice was sharp now. You just voted to take our colonies, to steal our worlds, to genetically modify our people against their will, to increase our tribute until our economy collapsed. You were willing to destroy our civilization slowly, through economic warfare and forced migration. We are simply offering a faster alternative, and unlike you, we are being honest about it. Hyun raised his hand for silence. But we do not want to use these weapons. We do not want war. What we want is very simple. Respect, equality, and compensation for 50 years of exploitation. The display changed to show a document, a list of demands. As the council members read them, they realized that humanity was not negotiating. They were dictating terms. These are our requirements, Hyun stated. First, all restrictions on human development are permanently removed. We will build what we want, where we want, when we want. Second, the Council will pay Earth 50 trillion credits in reparations for 50 years of exploitative treaties. Third, humanity's control of our 89 colonies is recognized, and we are claiming 30 additional uninhabited systems. Fourth, any military action against humanity or our allies will be met with immediate and overwhelming force. We will not attack civilians, but we will destroy every military asset you possess. And finally, the council structure will be reformed to give all species equal representation and voting power. This is extortion, a Vortan officer shouted. We will never accept these terms. Then we will dismantle the council by force, Hyun said simply. Starting with your homeworld. We have run the calculations. We can destroy the top 100 military installations across all council space within 6 hours. After that, you will have no ability to threaten anyone. You will be defenseless. And then we will impose our terms anyway, except they will be much harsher. Thelmore floated forward in his containment sphere. Ambassador Hyun, I must ask. If you possessed this power all along, why did you wait? Why endure 50 years of humiliation? Why not reveal yourselves sooner? For the first time, Hyun's expression softened slightly. Because we remember what unchecked military power cost us on Earth. We spent thousands of years fighting each other. We nearly destroyed our own planet multiple times. We rebuilt our civilization on the principle that might does not make right. We wanted to give the Council a chance to be better. We wanted to believe that intelligent species could coexist peacefully without domination and exploitation. And now? Thelmore asked quietly. Now we know better, Hyun replied. Now we understand that peace requires strength. That equality requires the power to enforce it. That respect must sometimes be demanded at gunpoint. You have 48 hours to accept our terms. After that, we begin military operations. Choose wisely. The hologram cut off. The council chamber erupted in chaos. Some species shouted for war. Others called for negotiation. Still others simply sat in stunned silence, trying to process what had just happened. The galaxy had changed in a single hour. The weak had become strong. The oppressed had become the oppressors. And humanity, the species that had been mocked and dismissed for 50 years, now held the power to reshape galactic civilization. The question was, what would they do with it? The 48-hour countdown began. Across the galaxy, Civilizations that had existed for thousands of years were forced to face an impossible situation. A species they had considered primitive now held them hostage. The strong had become weak. The weak had become strong, and no one knew what would happen next. Aboard the Earth defense ship Indomitable, Commander Jinwoo walked through the corridors of his vessel. The ship was massive, over 3 kilometers long, with enough firepower to level a planet. But right now it sat in orbit above the Vortan homeworld, engines idle, weapons ready but not firing. Waiting. Lieutenant Hana met him in the command center. She was young for her rank, barely 30 years old, but she had trained her entire life for this mission. Commander, the crew is asking questions. What if the Council refuses our terms? What if they choose war? Jinwoo looked out at the view screen. Below them, the Vortan homeworld turned slowly. Billions of people lived down there. Most of them had no idea their government had been oppressing other species. Most of them were just living their lives, working, raising families, hoping for a better future. Just like humans. Then we have already planned for that scenario, Jinwoo said quietly. But I do not think it will come to that. Bullies always fold when someone hits back harder. The Council stayed in power because no one challenged them. Now someone has. They will accept our terms because the alternative is unthinkable. But sir, what if we are wrong? What if they are willing to die rather than surrender? Jinwoo turned to face her. Lieutenant, do you know why we spent 50 years preparing in secret? Why we endured the insults and the exploitation? Why we did not reveal ourselves sooner? Because we were not ready yet? Partly, but mainly because we wanted to be absolutely certain that when we acted we would win. Completely. Decisively. With no possibility of failure. War is not glorious. War is not honorable. War is terrible. And if we must fight, then we fight to win so quickly and so thoroughly that it never happens again. On Earth, in the underground war room, Admiral Jisoo held a video conference with the civilian government. President Sang-hoon appeared on the main screen looking exhausted. He had not slept since the ultimatum was delivered. Behind him, other government officials argued in hushed voices. Admiral, the president said, we have achieved something incredible. We have gained the respect of the galaxy through strength, but we are also threatening to trigger a war that could kill billions, trillions even. Are we prepared for the moral consequences of what we are doing? Jisoo had expected this question. She had asked herself the same thing many times over the years. Mr. President, we have been preparing for this moment for 50 years. Every simulation, every war game, every strategic analysis has been examined. The Council's strength was always an illusion. They maintained power through intimidation and the compliance of weaker species. Now that we have shattered that illusion, the entire structure is collapsing. But at what cost? Another official asked. We are holding entire civilizations hostage. We are threatening genocide. How are we different from them? We are different because we are giving them a choice, Jisoo replied firmly. The Council never gave us a choice. They took our colonies. They imposed tributes. They violated our sovereignty. We are offering them survival in exchange for equality. That is more mercy than they ever showed us. President Sang-hoon nodded slowly. And if they refuse, if they choose war, then we will win that war, Jisoo said. Quickly, decisively, with minimum casualties. We will destroy their military capabilities and leave their civilian populations intact. We will show them that we are strong enough to destroy them, but civilized enough to choose not to. And then we will build something better. As the meeting continued, reports came in from across human space. The news was surprising. Dozens of minor species, civilizations that had been oppressed by the Council just like humanity, were reaching out. Secret communications began flowing to Earth, messages of support, offers of alliance, shared intelligence about Council military positions and weaknesses. A Vortan military officer, a captain named Rektos who had become disgusted with his government's corruption, transmitted classified defense codes. An Eltherian worker caste who had long resented the ruling castes, provided economic data about the syndicate's vulnerabilities. A Drayan scientist who believed the Council had become tyrannical, shared technology specifications. The galaxy was not united against humanity. The galaxy was divided, and many of those divisions were now becoming visible. Back at the Council station, High Chancellor Vextal sat alone in his private chambers. The chamber was large and ornate, decorated with trophies from a dozen conquered worlds. But right now it felt like a prison. His advisors had presented him with analysis after analysis. All of them reached the same conclusion. Humanity could win a war against the Council. The math was simple. Human ships were faster. Human weapons were more powerful. Human technology was more advanced. And humanity had the element of surprise. By the time the Council mobilized its full military might, Earth could destroy the top 100 strategic targets across all member worlds. An aide entered the chamber nervously. "My lord, the other Council members are requesting an emergency session. They wish to discuss the human ultimatum." "Let them discuss," Vextal growled. "What is there to discuss? We either accept their demands or we fight a war we cannot win." Some members believe we should call their bluff. They say humanity would never actually destroy entire star systems, that it would be immoral. Vextal laughed bitterly. "Immoral? We have been exploiting them for 50 years. We voted to steal their colonies just days ago. And now we expect them to show us mercy? Why would they? What have we done to earn it?" The aide had no answer. Vextal stood and walked to his window, looking out at the stars. For 600 years, his species had been among the most powerful in the galaxy. They had ruled through strength and intimidation. They had taken what they wanted and crushed anyone who resisted. And now finally someone stronger had appeared. "Send a message to the other Council members," Vextal said slowly. "Tell them I am calling for a vote. Accept humanity's terms or reject them. But make sure they understand. If we reject, I will not lead my people into a war we cannot win. The Vortan Collective will withdraw from any military action against Earth. Let the others fight if they wish. We will not." On the colony world of New Busan, Captain Minho sat in the underground shelter with his people. They had been there for 3 days now. Children played in the recreation areas. Adults worked in the hydroponic gardens or staffed the shelter systems. Life went on, even underground, even during a potential war. Lieutenant Yuna approached him with a report. "Sir, we just received a transmission from Earth Command. The Council is meeting now to vote on the ultimatum. We should have an answer within hours." "How are the people holding up?" Minho asked. "Better than expected. They trust Earth Command. They trust that our leaders know what they are doing. And honestly, sir, most of them are happy. Happy that we finally stood up to the Council. Happy that we are not victims anymore." Minho understood that feeling. He had joined the Colonial Defense Force 20 years ago, right after the Council had taken his family's farm on another colony world. The Council had declared the land was needed for an alien mining operation. His parents had received no compensation. "No apology, just orders to leave. Do you think we did the right thing?" Yuna asked quietly. "Threatening them like this?" "I think," Minho said carefully, "that sometimes peace requires the threat of violence. Not because we want to hurt anyone, but because some people only understand strength. The Council thought we were weak. They thought they could take whatever they wanted from us. We had to show them they were wrong." Far away on the Taeyang station, Commander Jinwoo received a communication from Admiral Jisoo. "Commander, the Council is voting now. Be ready. If they reject our terms, you will receive firing authorization within minutes. Are you prepared to execute?" Jinwoo looked at the stellar converter controls. One button. That was all it would take. One button and the Vortan sun would explode. Billions would die. An entire civilization would be erased. "Admiral, permission to speak freely?" "Granted. I hope to God we do not have to fire this weapon. I hope the Council chooses peace. Because if they do not, I will follow orders. But I will carry the weight of those deaths for the rest of my life." "As will I, Commander," Jisoo replied softly. "As will we all. That is the burden of command. That is the price of power. We must be willing to do terrible things to protect our people, but we must also pray that we never have to." The communication ended. Jinwoo returned to his post, watching the countdown timer. 30 hours remained. Then 29. Then 28. At the Council station, the vote was called. Every member species was represented. The chamber was silent as High Chancellor Vextal stood to speak. "The human ultimatum has been presented. Their terms are clear. We must now decide, do we accept their demands or do we reject them and face war? I call for a vote. All in favor of accepting the human terms?" Slowly, one by one, hands and claws and tentacles rose. The Vortans voted to accept. The Drayans voted to accept. Many minor species voted to accept immediately. Only the Eltherians hesitated, their representatives clicking in furious debate. Finally, they too raised their approval. The vote was unanimous, just as it had been unanimous to oppress humanity. Now it was unanimous to grant them equality. Bextel's voice was heavy as he made the announcement. The Council accepts Earth's terms. All restrictions on human development are lifted. Reparations will be paid, territories are recognized, and the Council structure will be reformed. Humanity has won. The chamber cleared quickly. No one wanted to stay. No one wanted to face the humiliation any longer than necessary. But Ambassador Hyun, watching from Earth, did not smile. He felt no joy in this victory, only relief, and hope that maybe, just maybe, something better could be built from the ashes of the old system. The war had been avoided. The peace had been secured. But the real work was only beginning. 3 months had passed since the Council's surrender. The galaxy looked very different now. The old Galactic Council station still orbited in empty space, but it was empty, abandoned, a monument to a failed system. In its place, a new station had been built. Humans had designed it, but 17 different species had helped construct it. The new Galactic Assembly Station was larger than the old one, with equal spaces for all member species. No elevated seats, no back rows, everyone equal. Ambassador Hyun stood at the window of his new office, looking out at the construction. Ships from dozens of worlds moved back and forth, bringing supplies and personnel. It was chaotic, but it was also beautiful. Cooperation instead of domination. Partnership instead of exploitation. Behind him, the door opened. Drayan Ambassador Kel-9 floated in, his containment sphere humming softly. The energy being had been Observer Kel-9 during the old council. Now he was an ambassador like everyone else. Equal status, equal voice. Ambassador Hyun, Kel-9 said, his electronic voice as calm as always. May I speak with you privately? Of course. Please come in. Hyun gestured to a seat designed for Drayan's spheres. What can I do for you? Kel-9 settled into position. For a moment he said nothing. Then, I must know. Was this always your plan? Did humanity always intend to overthrow the council? Hyun considered the question carefully. He had been asked this many times over the past 3 months. By reporters. By other ambassadors. By his own government. No, he said finally. It was not our plan. For the first 20 years after contact, we genuinely wanted to be part of the galactic community. We offered friendship. We offered cooperation. We offered trade and cultural exchange. We were excited to meet other intelligent species. We thought it would be the beginning of something wonderful. What changed? We were rejected, mocked, exploited. The council treated us like children at best, and resources to be harvested at worst. After 20 years of trying to fit in, we realized the truth. The council would never accept us as equals because their entire power structure required someone to be beneath them. So we adapted, we prepared, and we waited. Kel-9's sphere glowed slightly brighter. And if we had treated you as equals from the beginning, then none of this would have been necessary, Hyun said simply. We would be exploring the galaxy together as partners. We would be sharing technology and culture. We would be building something better than what existed. Instead, we are here, in the aftermath of what could have been a war, trying to rebuild trust that should never have been broken. There is a saying among my people, Kel-9 said quietly. Beware the patient ones, for they are simply choosing their moment. Humanity has taught the galaxy a painful but necessary lesson. Power without wisdom is tyranny, and tyranny always falls eventually. The conversation ended and Kel-9 left. Hyun returned to his work. There were trade agreements to negotiate, territorial disputes to mediate, technology sharing programs to establish. The Assembly was doing in 3 months what the Council had failed to do in 600 years, creating a truly cooperative galactic civilization. On the colony world of New Busan, life had returned to normal. Captain Minho walked through the streets of the colony's main settlement, watching people go about their daily lives. Children played in the parks. Markets were full of goods from a dozen different worlds. Human merchants traded freely with alien merchants. No tribute collectors, no inspectors demanding compliance. Just free people living free lives. Lieutenant Yuna joined him at a cafe overlooking the spaceport. They ordered drinks and sat in comfortable silence for a while, watching ships land and take off. Finally, Yuna spoke. Do you think it will last? The peace? Minho watched a human freighter dock next to a Drayan passenger ship. A year ago, that would have been impossible. Humans were not allowed to have ports large enough for their own ships, let alone alien ones. Now they did whatever they wanted. It will last as long as everyone remembers what happened when they tried to take our freedom, Minho said. We do not want to be conquerors. We do not want to rule the galaxy. But we have proven we cannot be conquered, and that makes all the difference. On Earth, Admiral Jisoo attended a ceremony at the Seoul Strategic Command Center. She was stepping down from her wartime position and transitioning to a new role, Secretary of Galactic Defense. The military would remain strong, but it would focus on protection rather than intimidation, peacekeeping rather than war-making. As she gave her speech to the assembled officers, she looked out at faces both young and old. Some had served during the dark days when humanity was oppressed. Others had joined after the liberation, inspired by Earth's victory. All of them were ready to defend their worlds and their freedom. For 50 years, Jisoo said, her voice echoing through the command center, we worked in secret. We sacrificed normal lives. We carried the burden of preparing for a war we hoped would never come. Many of you lived your entire careers in classified facilities, unable to tell your families what you did. You built ships in hidden shipyards. You developed weapons in secret laboratories. You trained for battles you hoped would never happen. Today I can finally say your work was not in vain. Because of you, humanity is free. Because of you, the galaxy is changing. Because of you, our children will grow up in a better world. The room erupted in applause, but Jisoo raised her hand for silence. However, our work is not finished. We have won the peace. Now we must keep it. The weapons we built for war must now protect the peace. The ships we constructed in secret must now patrol openly, and the technology we developed to defeat our enemies must now benefit our friends. We are no longer an oppressed species. We are now a leading civilization, and that brings new responsibilities. After the ceremony, Jisoo met with Dr. Sora in a private office. The scientist looked tired but happy. She had spent 30 years of her life developing weapon systems in absolute secrecy. Now she could finally use that knowledge for peaceful purposes. Admiral, the quantum displacement drive technology is being shared with the Assembly, Sora reported. We are teaching them how to build it, how to use it, how to maintain it. Within 5 years, every member species will have access to it. Travel times across the galaxy will be cut by 70%. And the weapons technology? Jisoo asked. The graviton projectors and neural warfare systems will remain classified for now. The Assembly has agreed that some technologies are too dangerous to share widely, but we are providing defensive applications, shield systems, point defense arrays, detection equipment, enough to protect against aggression but not enough to wage offensive war. Jisoo nodded approvingly. Good. Power without restraint is dangerous. We learned that lesson on Earth centuries ago. Let us make sure the rest of the galaxy learns it too, but through our example rather than through their own mistakes. Far out in the Kuiper Belt, the Taiyang station was being transformed. The massive stellar converter weapon still existed, but it was being repurposed. Commander Jinwoo oversaw the conversion personally. The device that could have destroyed stars was now being used to study them. Scientists from a dozen species worked together in laboratories that had once been weapons control centers. Jinwoo received a message from his wife back on Earth. She had not seen him in person for 8 years. His entire posting on the Taiyang station had been classified. She had known only that he worked somewhere in deep space on something important. Now she knew the truth. Now everyone knew. I am proud of you, her message said, but please come home soon. The children barely remember your face. Jinwoo smiled and recorded a reply. The next transport leaves in 2 weeks. I will be on it. The war we prepared for never happened, but the peace we built is real, and I want to be part of it with you. On the new assembly station, the first full session of the reformed government took place. Representatives from 73 species filled the chamber. Everyone had an equal vote. Everyone had an equal voice. It was messy. It was chaotic. It was slow and frustrating and sometimes made no sense, but it was also fair. And that made all the difference. A trade dispute between 2 minor species was resolved through negotiation instead of the council dictating terms. A territorial claim was settled by compromise instead of the strongest simply taking what they wanted. A technology sharing agreement was signed by 12 species who had never cooperated before. Small victories, but important ones. Ambassador Hyun watched it all with cautious optimism. He knew this new system was fragile. He knew that old habits and old resentments did not disappear overnight. But he also knew that change had to start somewhere. and it had started here, forced into existence by humanity's ultimatum, but sustained by the genuine desire of many species to create something better. The Eltharian syndicate had fractured, just as predicted. The worker castes had revolted against the ruling castes, tired of serving an elite that exploited them. Two new Eltharian governments had formed, both more democratic than the old syndicate. One had allied with humanity immediately. The other remained neutral but cooperative. The Vortan Collective had undergone massive internal reforms. High Chancellor Vextile had resigned after evidence of corruption was leaked by human intelligence operatives. The new Chancellor, a younger Vortan named Kelshin, had campaigned on a platform of cooperation and equality. He had been elected by popular vote rather than appointed by military power. It was a revolution, quiet but profound. The Drayan Empire remained largely unchanged, but they had been the most reasonable of the old council powers. They adapted quickly to the new system, seeing opportunity where others saw loss of control. 10 years after humanity's ultimatum, the galaxy looked radically different. Trade had increased by 400%. Technological development had accelerated. Cultural exchange programs brought students from dozens of worlds to study together. And most importantly, the constant low-level conflicts that had plagued the old council system had largely disappeared. But in Earth's Strategic Defense Command, in classified facilities buried deep underground, the weapons remained ready. The ships remained on alert. The Taiyang station, converted to peaceful research, could be returned to weapons status within 72 hours if necessary. Because humanity had learned the most important lesson of galactic politics: trust but verify. Hope for peace but prepare for war. Show mercy, but never show weakness. Ambassador Hyun, now an old man, sat in his office on the assembly station one evening. He was reading reports from across the galaxy. New colonies being founded. Joint research projects making breakthroughs. Former enemies working together. It was not perfect. There were still disputes, still tensions, still problems. But it was better. So much better. His assistant, a young diplomat named Doyen, brought him a message. "Sir, the Assembly is requesting your presence at tomorrow's session. They want to honor you for your role in the Reformation." Hyun smiled tiredly. "Tell them I appreciate the gesture, but I was just doing my job. The real heroes are the people who spent 50 years building the ships and weapons we needed. The scientists who developed the technology. The colonists who kept our secrets. The soldiers who trained for a war they hoped would never come. Those are the people who should be honored. I will tell them, sir. But between you and me, you are the one who stood in front of the council and told them humanity would not be victims anymore. That took courage." "No," Hyun said quietly. "That took anger. And frustration. And 50 years of watching my people be exploited. Courage is what came after. When we had to figure out how to build something better instead of just destroying what was broken." Doyen left and Hyun returned to his work. Outside his window, the stars shone bright and endless. Humanity had come to those stars seeking friends and found masters. They had been mocked, exploited, and dismissed. But they had endured. They had prepared. And when the moment came, they had acted. The galaxy would never underestimate humanity again. But more importantly, humanity would never forget the lessons learned. Power without wisdom is tyranny. Strength without mercy is cruelty. And freedom without vigilance is temporary. Earth had won its freedom at gunpoint. Now it was humanity's responsibility to prove they deserved it, to build a better galaxy, to be the civilization they had hoped to join 50 years ago. To lead not through fear but through example. The new dawn had come, and humanity stood ready to face it, not as conquerors, not as victims, but as equals, as partners. As free people who had earned their place among the stars and would defend it for as long as those stars continued to shine.